Imagine this traveller you've arrived here for a reason, as if something quiet in the cosmos guided you here. A faint object drifts between Mars and the Sun, leaving behind a question that lingers like cold starlight. What if the universe hides its truths in the things we overlook? What are the odds that an interstellar fragment older than Earth would slip along a 1 in 20,000 path brushing past 3 worlds in perfect silence? A light that blinked once and vanished. A whisper buried in background telemetry. A shape that should not exist yet does. Stay a while, traveller. Let's drift through the silence together. Traveller, tonight the universe whispers again softly without urgency, as though it has always known you would be here to listen. Some discoveries arrive not with revelation, but with the quiet weight of inevitability, like dust settling across the lens of a telescope that has been waiting too long in the dark. And so we begin with a single moment on July 1st, 2025, when the Atlas telescope in Chile detected a faint movement in Sagittarius. It was nothing dramatic at first, just a pixel that changed brightness, a slow drift of light against the deep background. Yet from such unassuming shifts, entire cosmic stories unfold. For 6 hours, the object rested on the near-Earth object confirmation page, an unremarkable guest among thousands of quiet rocks that pass our orbit each year. Then calculations sharpened and the object revealed its nature through mathematics alone. Its orbit was hyperbolic, not bound to the Sun, not ours, not local. I'm a visitor from another star system, the third known interstellar traveller to wander into the gravity of our Sun. In the silence of that realization, something subtle awakens in the observer, a sense of humility before a universe that remains far older, stranger, and more patient than we often remember. But 3i Atlas, unlike its predecessors Oumuamua and Borisov, arrived not with chaos nor with familiarity, but with a kind of understated precision. Oumuamua entered the solar system tumbling like a forgotten shard of ancient geometry. Borisov behaved exactly as a comet should. Yet 3i Atlas approached with retrograde motion, moving opposite the planets while barely tilted away from the thin plane in which Earth and its neighbours orbit. An inclination of 175-85 degrees, a mere 5 degrees from perfect alignment. For an object born in another stellar nursery ejected long before Earth existed, the odds of such alignment were slim, 1 in 500 by our calculations. But numbers, even when precise, are never the full story. They are merely the first layer of wonder. You shift your posture in your chair, listening to the soft hum of the observatory around you. Computers, murmuring detectors, breathing in photons that left their source thousands of years ago. This is the rhythm of astronomy, quiet, contemplative, unhurried. Discovery here is not an act of conquest, but an act of listening. And as 3i Atlas glides inward through the solar system, the questions that follow it unfold not like alarms but like meditations. Its path brings it near Venus, near Mars, near Jupiter. 3 planetary encounters evenly spaced, almost elegant in their arrangement. A 1 in 20,000 trajectory, unlikely but not impossible. Yet, in the silent cosmos, improbability is not a spark for fear. It is simply another form of poetry written in orbital arcs and gravitational whispers. We follow, but we do not chase. We observe, but we do not impose. There is a kind of peace in allowing the cosmos to remain larger than our intuitions. And as the object drifts nearer our instruments, Hubble Webb ground-based arrays begin to listen in their own ways. Light scatters. Spectra reveal hints of composition. And then something unexpected. Nickel without iron. A rare signature, though not impossible. The universe has never promised to behave only within the limits of our expectations. But in this narrative, this gentle unfolding of data and doubt puzzles are not intrusions. They are invitations. They tell us where our models breathe too shallowly, where our understanding has grown rigid and needs to be softened again by wonder. They ask us to remember that science is not a catalogue of certainties. It is a discipline of curiosity, and curiosity thrives best in silence. As 3i Atlas approaches, Mars cameras across the solar system prepare. Some on orbiters, some on rovers, some in private observatories on Earth where lone watchers wait through cold dawn hours. Yet regardless of instrument or location, the feeling is the same, a quiet anticipation, the sense that something older than Earth is moving through our shared sky, allowing itself briefly to be seen. In that patience, we relearn a truth often forgotten: the universe does not explain itself. It moves, it reveals glimpses, it offers fragments of narrative written in starlight orbital mechanics and chemical signatures, and it trusts us small temporary beings to decide what meaning to draw from the fragments. Tonight, traveller, in the quiet hours of reflection, you are part of that ancient tradition. You sit in the long chain of observers who have looked upward and found themselves softened by what they cannot fully grasp. We do not look for answers, we look for belonging. And in Three-Eye Atlas, drifting across the boundary between stars, we find not proof or finality, but companionship in mystery. It is all right to not understand. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only observed. Some travellers aren't meant to linger, only to pass close enough to remind us of how vast the universe truly is. So rest here beneath the starlit numbers and the softly humming sensors. Let the improbabilities settle like dust on your thoughts. Tonight the stars will keep their silence. Sleep now, observer. The cosmos remembers. Traveller, let us drift deeper into the quiet geometry of the cosmos, where motion becomes meaning, and every orbit is a sentence written across the dark. If segment 1 was the discovery, then this moment is the contemplation, the long exhale after realizing that something from another star is not only passing by, but doing so with a grace that unsettles our expectations. Three-Eye Atlas does not behave like a wanderer stumbling into our system by chance. Its path is strangely aligned, strangely optimized, strangely smooth, like a thought the universe has been rehearsing for a very long time. But before we let our minds wander too far beyond the boundary of certainty, we return to the discipline of observation, the way a scientist returns to calm breathing when the night grows too quiet. The solar system is not a sphere but a disk, a thin plate of orbital harmony where planets follow their elliptical rituals. Into this structured silence enters an object from the deep galactic drift, an object that could have arrived from anywhere at any angle from the far northern arc of the sky or from the abyss beneath our ecliptic plane. Yet Three-Eye Atlas arrives almost perfectly aligned with that fragile cosmic table, tilted by only 5 degrees. To say such alignment is unlikely is mathematically correct. To say it is impossible is presumptuous. Nature, after all, has always been generous with her improbabilities. But in the quiet hours of the observatory, where probability feels like a language rather than a rulebook, this alignment becomes less a puzzle to solve and more a question to sit with, like a note sustaining at the end of a long musical phrase. The object's speed tells another part of the story. 58 km per second faster than Oumuamua, faster than Borisov, faster than any interstellar traveller we've documented. Yet speed alone does not trouble astronomers. It is the combination of speed and alignment that creates a soft ripple of wonder. A fast object is expected to arrive at a random orientation. But a fast object arriving along the plane of planets, almost mirroring their cosmic choreography yet moving against their direction, whispers a kind of elegance, not usually found in cold, celestial mechanics. Not a violation, just an exception, a reminder that the universe does not need to repeat itself to be understood. And so, we follow the path quietly. We trace the arc through the inner solar system as if reading a line of ancient text. Venus awaits at 0.65 astronomical units, Mars a little farther out, Jupiter immense and unbothered still farther, 3 worlds. 3 encounters arranged with a spacing that feels almost rhythmic. The probability of this configuration, 1 in 20,000, flows through our calculations like a soft breeze. Numbers steady, heart steady, and yet something lingers. Perhaps it is not the unlikelihood that draws us in, but the way these alignments feel less like coincidence and more like opportunity. Opportunity not in the dramatic sense, but in the quiet scientific sense, a chance to observe, to understand, to listen. Because every close approach is a moment when instruments sharpen their vision, and the object allows us a brief window into its nature. A visitor crossing 3 planetary neighbourhoods in sequence offers 3 possibilities for clarity. What we receive instead is something gentler, a lesson in patience. For as 3i Atlas moved inward, our telescopes captured fragments of its identity, a spectral whisper of nickel without iron, a glow that stretched in directions comets rarely stretch, a mass calculation too heavy to reconcile easily with the brightness we measured. These details layered softly like thin sheets of starlight did not shout artificiality. They did not announce hidden purpose. They simply existed, calm and unresolved reminders that astronomy is not the pursuit of answers, but the pursuit of understanding. Traveller, do you feel how the mind tries to leap towards certainty, how the imagination wants to fill the quiet with premature conclusions? In the silent cosmos, we resist that urge. We return instead to the geometry, the numbers, the orbit itself, because trajectories are meditations, because motion reveals character, because gravity in its simplicity is a form of truth. And here is the truth we sit with. 3i Atlas is following a path that is unlikely elegant and strangely efficient, but efficiency does not imply intention. Beauty does not imply design. A flower aligns its petals without asking permission. A comet may do the same. Still, there is a kind of softness in acknowledging wonder without fear. The object's orbit seems to trace a route that a spacecraft designer might choose, and yet the cosmos has been creating such routes long before spacecraft existed. Planets carve channels in the gravitational field like grooves in an ancient record. To slip into those grooves, whether by chance or by choreography, is simply to move with the music. And so, we watch, we calculate, we breathe. As the object approached, Mars NASA's cameras and European instruments prepared to observe it with unprecedented clarity. This should have been the moment of revelation, the moment when uncertainty shrank and details grew sharp. Yet instead of clarity, we were given a silence, a missing frame, an absence of imagery that left astronomers and observers not fearful but contemplative. Absence, too, is data. A missing image shapes a narrative just as surely as a captured one. In that silence, the object continued on unconcerned with our expectations. And perhaps this is the lesson hidden in the trajectory that shouldn't exist, that the universe is under no obligation to match the patterns we find comfortable. That meaning is something we bring to the sky, not something the sky owes us. That mystery is not a problem but a landscape. The object moves, we observe, and in that simple exchange, wonder survives. It's all right to not understand. Tonight, the universe keeps its silence. Sleep softly, traveller. The cosmos will keep watch. Traveller, settle into the quiet as we move from motion to matter, from the graceful arc of an interstellar path to the intimate chemistry carried within a single beam of light. 3i Atlas, which drifted into our solar neighbourhood with improbable alignment, continues to reveal its nature not through spectacle, but through subtleties, whispers hidden in the spectra captured by telescopes listening across the void. And tonight we explore one of the gentlest and most puzzling of those whispers, the lonely presence of nickel without its cosmic companion iron. Spectroscopy is a kind of cosmic listening. Long before spacecraft, long before digital detectors, astronomers learned that when starlight is broken apart, each element leaves its signature, a barcode written by the universe itself. When the Very Large Telescope in Chile turned its spectrograph toward 3i Atlas in late August 2025, the expectation was simple. A comet, even an interstellar one, should reveal the familiar chemistry we have catalogued across decades. Water vapor carbon compounds, hydroxyl radicals, a dusty continuum shaped by sunlight. Nothing extraordinary, nothing dramatic, just the quiet fingerprints of an ordinary cosmic traveller. Yet in the midst of these familiar lines appeared something more distinct, nickel. Not impossible, but unusual. And behind that nickel signature lingered a deeper silence, the absence of iron. In the cosmos, these two metals are forged together in the fierce hearts of dying stars. They coexist in meteorites, asteroids, comets, and dust grains across nearly every environment we have studied. Their cosmic story is intertwined. To find nickel is to find iron almost always. But in the spectrum of 3i Atlas, iron remained absent. That quiet asymmetry drew the attention of astronomers not because it violated the laws of nature, but because it strained the patterns we rely on. Nature has structure, but she also has nuance. and this nuanced nickel rising alone invited careful contemplation. As the object approached the sun, the nickel signature intensified sharply, climbing with a power law increase that made researchers lean closer to their monitors. The temperature was still low, far too low according to standard models for the minerals that usually contain nickel to vaporize so easily. Iron-bearing minerals should have behaved similarly, yet their spectral lines stayed silent. The result was not alarming, just elegant in its strangeness, a reminder that the cosmos often resists the rigid categories we impose on it. Still, it is tempting to leap toward extraordinary interpretations. On Earth, pure nickel emissions without iron can suggest industrial processes, refined alloys, deliberate chemical separation. But astronomy, when practiced with humility, slows us down. It reminds us that exceptions in nature do not require intention. They require only conditions we have not yet imagined. A primordial disk with unusual mineral ratios, a protoplanetary environment with unique thermodynamics, an origin around a metal-poor star where iron and nickel were distributed unevenly, any of these could produce the observed signature without invoking anything unnatural. The uncommon is not the impossible, and yet the uncommon deserves attention. To deepen the puzzle, another subtle clue emerged not from chemistry, but from the way light scattered off the dust surrounding the object. Polarization. The alignment of light waves after interacting with particles acts as a diagnostic tool for astronomers. It reveals the structure, size, and texture of dust grains. Over the years, we have built a catalogue of polarization signatures for comets throughout our solar system. These signatures vary, but within a familiar range. 3i Atlas, however, stepped outside that range. Its polarization resembled not comets, but bodies from the distant fringes of our own system, centaurs and trans-Neptunian objects shaped by conditions unlike those found near the Sun. In this way, the object refused to settle into any category we offered it. It was comet-like, but not fully comet. Asteroid-like, but not convincingly so. It echoed the material behaviour of icy bodies from the outer solar system, yet carried the chemical signature of something older, colder, and forged under different stellar conditions. It was as though the object belonged to multiple families of celestial bodies at once, or perhaps to none of them. But this is where the silent cosmos invites us into a deeper reflection. The anomalies of 3i Atlas do not scream, they do not demand, they do not argue, they simply rest in the data, asking gently for patience. Astronomy is not a science of immediate certainty. It is a study of faint clues, incomplete information, and the discipline of accepting that some mysteries require more time, more light, and more quiet than we expect. So we sit with the data. We acknowledge that nickel without iron is uncommon. We recognise that the polarization does not match our catalogues. We let ourselves breathe with the idea that nature, this intricate ancient architect, has more variations than we have yet imagined. Because nothing about 3i Atlas violates physics. Nothing breaks the universe. Nothing suggests the impossible. Instead, it suggests our incomplete models, our incomplete understanding, our incomplete grasp of how diverse and ancient the cosmos truly is. Traveller, this is the beauty of the moment. Not in certainty, but in spacious uncertainty. In the gentle realization that an object older than Earth has passed within our reach and chosen to reveal only fragments of itself. Not enough to classify it neatly, not enough to explain it fully, but enough to remind us that the universe remains larger than our frameworks and more subtle than our expectations. 3, Atlas in its chemistry, teaches a quiet lesson, that not understanding is not a failure, that questions can be as calming as answers, that science becomes poetry when it meets the unknown with humility. The nickel glows, the iron stays silent, and somewhere in that soft discrepancy, wonder grows. Sleep now, observer. The cosmos keeps watch through every spectral line. Traveller, let the night settle around you again. The instruments are still humming, the screens still glowing faintly in the dark, but your breath has slowed. You've listened to the trajectory, the chemistry, the quiet irregularities and how 3i Atlas reveals itself. Now we move into deeper water, not toward fear, but toward understanding, or rather toward the acceptance that understanding sometimes requires sitting with the extraordinary without rushing to conclusions. Astronomers cautious by nature did not begin with grand claims. They began with measurements, with numbers, with the steady discipline that has carried our species from the first stone sundials to the edge of interstellar space. And as they observed 3I Atlas, those numbers accumulated into a pattern both delicate and uncomfortable. 7 anomalies, 7 small departures from expectation that taken together feel like a constellation of unanswered questions. The first is the question of mass. When the brightness of 3I Atlas was converted into size estimates, the result was startling. If the reflected sunlight corresponded to a truly massive nucleus, the object could be between 5 and 20 kilometers wide, far larger than Oumuamua, far larger even than Borisov. Large interstellar bodies should be rare, very rare. Our models suggest that fragments expelled from other star systems should mostly be small pebble-sized or fractured. Yet this visitor shone like something far larger. If the object truly carried tens of billions of tons of material, then it would be the most massive interstellar body ever observed by orders of magnitude. But large objects are not impossible. They are simply improbable. And improbability alone is not an argument. It is an invitation. The second puzzle lies in its behaviour under sunlight. When Hubble photographed 3I Atlas, astronomers noticed that its coma, the light scattered by dust and gas, stretched farther toward the sun than away from it. This is the reverse of what comets do. Light and solar wind normally push material outward away from the sun, but here light extended sunward, as though the object were glowing slightly more brightly on the side facing the star. Explanations were proposed: sublimation differences, structural fragmentation, all theoretically plausible yet none satisfying. But this is often the nature of cosmic anomalies, possible but peculiar. The third anomaly, nickel without iron, we have already explored a soft signature, quiet but persistent. Chemistry behaves strangely at the fringes of interstellar time. It is a clue without a conclusion, a question written in faint spectral lines. The fourth puzzle emerges from polarized light, which tells us about the shape and composition of dust grains. 3I Atlas displayed a polarization pattern unseen in comets we've studied. It resembled objects from the outermost regions of our solar system, bodies shaped in colder, more distant environments. But 3I Atlas did not originate from our sun. It came from somewhere far beyond, carrying within it the memory of a place unlike ours. Its polarization was not impossible, simply unfamiliar. The fifth anomaly is perhaps the gentlest yet the most elegant its alignment with the ecliptic plane. Interstellar bodies should arrive from every direction. The sky is a sphere and our solar system is a thin disk. The probability that a random object from interstellar space aligns within 5 degrees of that disk is small. Yet here it is, moving nearly along our planetary plane as though gliding between the lanes of a cosmic highway. The sixth anomaly rests in timing the sequence of close approaches with Venus, Mars and Jupiter, spaced almost rhythmically along its retrograde path. Not purposefully, not necessarily, but unusually. Nature sometimes arranges moments with surprising grace. And then there is the seventh anomaly, its path through the sky. When traced backward through 50 years of time, passes within 9 degrees of the region, where the famous WOW signal originated in 1977. A coincidence likely, but coincidences when stacked gently upon one another begin to feel like questions, not answers, but invitations to look more closely. Traveller, these 7 anomalies do not shout. They do not demand fear or speculation. They are not proof of anything extraordinary. They are simply pieces of a puzzle we may never complete in our lifetime. Science is rich with such puzzles. They remind us that understanding is never a finished map, but a landscape in motion. And yet there is a kind of quiet beauty in the way these anomalies gather. Each one alone is gentle. Together they create a soft chorus of wonder, not loud, not dramatic, but persistent. They ask us to consider that the universe may be more diverse than our early models suggest, that interstellar visitors may carry histories and structures shaped by physics we have not yet fully grasped, that cosmic formation processes may have subtleties we rarely witness. Perhaps 3I Atlas is simply an outlier, the rare child of a distant stellar nursery shaped by conditions that seldom repeat. Perhaps it is typical of a category of interstellar bodies we have not yet encountered because our telescopes were not sensitive enough to find them before. Or perhaps it carries a story older than we imagine, forged in a star system that has long since dissolved into starlight. We do not need certainty to appreciate its passage. The silent cosmos teaches us that not knowing is not a void. It is a space where curiosity breathes, where wonder rests softly, where the universe invites us to sit with questions rather than chase conclusions. 3. I, Atlas, with its improbable mass, its backward glow, its silent iron, its peculiar polarization, its graceful alignment, its planetary timing, and its ancient echo near the wow signal offers no answers. It simply passes by, leaving us a scattering of clues, shimmering fragments of a story too old and too distant for us to read fully. And that perhaps is enough. It's all right to not understand. Tonight the universe whispers through 7 gentle anomalies. Sleep now, traveller. The cosmos will keep watch. Traveller, as we drift deeper into the quiet folds of this mystery, something becomes increasingly clear. Not all questions in astronomy are shaped by the data we receive. Some are shaped by the silence around the data we do not receive. 3I Atlas, in its long and indifferent passage across our solar system, has taught us that silence can be as informative, sometimes more informative than noise. Silence in the universe is never empty. It is structure, it is context, it is a frame we often overlook because we expect revelation to arrive, with brightness, with spectacle, with certainty. But the cosmos in its ancient patience often speaks in absences. And so the story of 3I Atlas is not only about what we observed, it is also about what our most powerful instruments did not show us. When the object passed 29 million kilometers from Mars, closer than any interstellar visitor in recorded history, we had an armada of cameras pointed at it. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, ESA's Mars Express, the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, China's Tianwen-1, the UAE's Hope spacecraft. Together they formed a ring of artificial eyes around the red planet, each capable of capturing high-resolution glimpses of the traveller as it drifted past. And yet after the encounter, nothing came. No processed images, no press briefings, no colour composites, only a single low-resolution frame from Europe, a faint white dot lost in black space. This is not the silence of malfunction, it is the silence of withholding, and withholding always raises a gentle, quiet question: why? But before speculation can take hold, the silent cosmos reminds us to breathe, to observe, to consider every mundane explanation before reaching toward the dramatic. Space agencies operate slowly. Data processing takes time. Solar interference, government shutdowns, communication bandwidth constraints. These are real factors. They can delay, complicate, obscure. And yet the silence lingered longer than silence usually does. NASA's public channels stopped updating due to a government shutdown that began precisely 48 hours before the flyby. ESA's usually prompt imaging team said nothing. China, which typically turns Mars images into national headlines, remained silent. Even the UAE, eager to showcase its capability, offered no release. In science, coordinated silence across independent entities is rare. And rare phenomena, like rare chemical signatures or rare orbital alignments, become part of the narrative quiet anomalies that do not shout mystery but whisper, "Look closer." Traveller, let us look closer gently. Silence as a scientific phenomenon often points not to conspiracy, but to complication. Data may not align with expectations. Instruments may capture something ambiguous, something requiring additional review. Scientists may need to confirm that artifacts are not illusions, noise, or calibration errors. Peer review, internal review, cross-checking, these processes slow communication. No one wants to release a misleading image, especially not at a moment when global attention is heightened. So the silence might be caution, it might be uncertainty, it might be the slow, methodical breath of a scientific community trying not to rush. And yet silence can also be a mirror. It reflects back our own projections, our own hopes, our own fears. Into silence, the human mind pours stories. This is how mythology begins. This is how constellations were born, shapes projected onto stars by cultures searching for meaning in the vastness above. In this way, the silence around 3i Atlas reveals not the object's nature but our own. In the absence of imagery, speculation flourished. Some imagined structure, some imagined intention, some imagined danger. Silence became a canvas, and humanity painted each fear and hope upon it. But in the silent cosmos, we learn to see silence differently, not as a void, but as an invitation. Perhaps the silence around 3i Atlas tells us that we have reached a threshold, an encounter, where our instruments capture data that simply does not fit neatly into categories we've built. Not anomalies that break physics, but anomalies that require new nuance. Spectral curves that defy easy interpretation. Polarization signatures that resemble distant objects but not local ones. Brightness profiles that suggest unusual thermal behavior. Silence then is the interval during which frameworks evolve. It is not comfortable, it's not dramatic, it is simply necessary. Even in the history of astronomy, silence has been a constant companion. Photographic plates that showed faint smudges no one could interpret sat unexamined for years before being recognised as galaxies beyond our own. Pulsar detections once sat in silence labelled scruff before their true nature became clear. The cosmic microwave background, now one of the pillars of cosmology, was once dismissed as pigeon droppings in a radio telescope. Silence precedes understanding. It always has. So what does the silence around 3i Atlas reveal? Not intention, not conspiracy, not anything supernatural. It reveals the boundary of our expectations. 3. O Atlas is a visitor shaped by another star, another era, another gravitational environment. It does not follow our cometry norms because it did not grow in our cosmic nursery. Its chemistry carries signatures of a place we may never see. Its motion arcs across our solar system in a way that challenges our statistical assumptions. Its encounter with Mars occurred at a time when our imaging systems were not aligned politically, logistically, or operationally to respond. The silence is not suspicious. It is simply honest. It tells us that our anticipation exceeded our readiness, that our desire for clarity moved faster than our instruments could process, that the universe continues to unfold at a pace indifferent to human impatience. Traveller, let yourself rest in that realization. 3. 3i Atlas does not owe us an explanation. It glides through the solar system with the dignity of something ancient carrying the quiet weight of 1,000,000 years of interstellar drift. It will not pause to reveal itself because we wish it to. It will not break its silence because we are listening. And so, in this moment we learn the true nature of silence. It is not emptiness. It is not avoidance. It is not a void. Silence is space for wonder, space for caution, space for growth. A reminder that the cosmos does not rush, and neither should we. Sleep softly, traveller. The universe speaks even when it says nothing at all. Traveller, tonight we turn our gaze toward the quiet red world that drifts beside us like an older sibling, patient and self-contained. Mars has always been more than a destination. It is a mirror, a place where our questions echo back at us, softly shaped by wind and time. A world that reflects not only what we hope to find, but what we hope to become. And during the passage of 3i Atlas, Mars became something else a witness, a silent participant beneath the faint movement of an interstellar visitor, watching in the only way a planet can through surface, changes so subtle that only those who look closely would ever notice. Imagine the Martian surface as a vast memory, a landscape scored by ancient rivers and sculpted by thin air. Every dune remembers the last wind. Every rock remembers the age when oceans once touched it. And for decades our rovers have wandered across this memory like careful readers tracing forgotten lines of a story. Our orbiters circle above steady as breaths, gathering images in patient loops. We have learned to expect modest variations on Mars, a dust devil swirling in the distance, a thin frost settling at dawn, shadows shifting the way all shadows do. But during the days when 3i Atlas moved across the Martian sky, a dim smudge captured by Perseverance's unassuming cameras, the planet began to respond with patterns no one had predicted. What researchers first noticed was brightness. Not much, just enough for a careful eye to pause and tilt its head. Albedo changes appeared in Noctis Labyrinthus, that deep network of canyons near the equator, where Mars folds in on itself like a forgotten map. When the images from October were compared to those from May, new linear features appeared across the valley floor. They were evenly spaced, almost parallel, stretching for kilometers, with a quiet regularity that did not resemble the playful randomness of Martian winds. Seasoned scientists described these lines in cautious terms: surface frost interactions, atmospheric artifacts, dust settling in unexpected ways. All explanations that sound safe, familiar, earthly, but frost does not form in Martian summer, and dust rarely arranges itself in such calm geometry. Still in silent cosmos, we don't leap toward extraordinary conclusions. We breathe, we observe, we let the anomaly be an anomaly. Some suggested the lines were dust from Three-Eye Atlas drifting down like gentle snow. Others imagined winds interacting with new sediment. Both were plausible. Both followed the rules nature often prefers. But the timing was a soft whisper of coincidence. The features appeared within days of the flyby. Not months, not at the turn of a season. Days. And Timing Traveller is its own form of poetry. Not proof, but rhythm. Not certainty, but suggestion. Perseverance saw none of this directly. Its job is to read the rocks, not the skies. And yet on October the 1st, the rover lifted its gaze just long enough for 20 raw frames to capture the faintest smear of light high above the horizon. Individually, those frames held nothing, but when stacked together, they revealed the moving glow of Three-Eye Atlas, small elongated, drifting exactly where calculation said it should be. A reminder that truth often emerges only when moments are layered gently atop one another. Science is built this way, memory is built this way, and wonder too. By early December, the features on Mars had grown. Their geometry held firm, but their length had increased. 20 kilometers became 28. Spectral readings changed as well. The minerals at the surface darkened slightly as if touched by processes we do not yet understand. Some scientists described subsurface ice interacting with the atmosphere. Others admitted the changes did not match any known patterns. A few said nothing at all, choosing the silence of careful thought. But in the meditative space of silent cosmos, we let these uncertainties drift like dust in a sunbeam. The surface of Mars is not making declarations. It is simply responding to forces we have not fully mapped. Forces that might be natural, might be unexpected, might be fleeting. The beauty is not in the answer. It is in the quiet realization that worlds evolve in ways we cannot always predict. Mars has often been imagined as a future home, terraformed oceans, warm skies, our footprints pressed into the red dust. But these patterns remind us of something gentle but important. Mars is not waiting for us. Mars is not a blank canvas. It is a world with its own rhythms, its own chemistry, its own slow transformations. A world touched perhaps briefly by the faint presence of a traveller from another star. Not intentionally, not dramatically. Just as a leaf might stir when a bird passes overhead. Three-Eye Atlas did not descend. It did not land. It didn't alter Mars in any deliberate way that we can measure. But even passing objects leave traces in gravity and dust in the way we observe a world afterward, with new softness and new questions. The lesson hidden in these Martian lines is not one of alarm, but of humility. Worlds are not static. Space is not empty. The cosmos shifts and flows in ways that resist our need for certainty. And Mars, standing in the quiet corridor between planets, reminds us that change does not need to be dramatic to be meaningful. Tonight, traveller, let Mars rest in your mind as a mirror. A world reflecting both our desire to understand and the universe's gentle insistence that understanding is slow, patient, and never complete. It's all right to not know. Sleep softly. The cosmos keeps watch. Traveller, tonight we drift into the quiet mathematics of the universe, where numbers are not cold or distant, but soft lanterns guiding us through the dark. Probability is not the enemy of wonder. It is its companion, a quiet reminder that the cosmos is vast enough to surprise us and structured enough to make those surprises meaningful. In the silent cosmos, numbers are not answers, they are reflections. Think of every object in space as a story written in motion. Orbits, velocities, chemical traces, each one carries the memory of its origin. When we study 3 unanswered, we are not simply measuring a comet. We are reading the travel diary of something ancient, something older than Earth's mountains, older than Earth's oceans, older even than the idea of Earth itself. And in that diary, the entries do not always follow familiar grammar, a retrograde path nearly aligned with the ecliptic plane, an inclination so slight that it feels like a whisper. Close encounters with Venus, Mars and Jupiter spaced as neatly as beads on a string. A trajectory that when viewed through the lens of statistics appears improbable, but when viewed through the lens of cosmic scale remains possible. This is where wonder lives between unlikely and inevitable. Probability, after all, is a language spoken by the universe without urgency. It tells us that a rare event is not a mistake. It is simply a quiet choice made by nature across deep time. A 1 in 500 alignment does not announce intention. It reminds us that even the most unexpected patterns can emerge when billions of years pass like breaths. Yet there is another side to probability, one that feels more like listening than calculation. When astronomers traced the path of 3I Atlas back through the galaxy, the numbers began to soften into something more contemplative. The estimated age stretching into the billions placed the object's birth in an era when the Milky Way was still stitching itself together from clouds of hydrogen and dust. An era when stars were young and heavy elements were rare. An era before our sun, before our system, before any story we tell about ourselves could have begun. To realise that the object moving across our telescopes may have existed 3 times longer than Earth is to recognise that every probability we calculate is a form of humility. Our models were built in the shadow of a much younger world. The universe does not bend to them. It simply allows us to glimpse fragments of its rules. Traveller, consider the anomalies not as warnings, but as variations in a cosmic symphony. Nickel without iron, a coma that stretches sunward, a mass that resists the push of outgassing. Light polarised in patterns we have never catalogued, each anomaly requires an explanation, yes, but each one also holds space for awe. In the silent cosmos, anomaly is not a threat. It is an opportunity to sit with complexity. Perhaps the nickel is natural, forged in conditions we have not yet replicated. Perhaps the symmetrical outgassing is not engineering, but geometry. Perhaps the alignment is the quiet coincidence of an ancient wanderer drifting into a gravitational groove carved by planets it never knew existed. Or perhaps the universe is simply broader in its creativity than our textbooks allow. Probability does not choose sides. It only presents possibilities. And then there is the wow signal. Another improbable note, another quiet coincidence that some hold close and others release easily. A direction in the sky that almost matches the backward traced origin of 3I Atlas. A frequency that aligns with hydrogen, the most elemental language of the universe. A signal that lasted 72 seconds and then fell into permanent silence. To some, this coincidence is meaningful. To others, it is merely curiosity. In silent cosmos, it is both. A suggestion rather than a claim. An open door rather than a conclusion. What matters is not which interpretation you choose, but that you recognise the beauty of the question itself. For wonder is not found in certainty. It is found in the willingness to linger with the unknown. As astronomers refine their models, something gentle happens. The fear dissolves, the urgency softens. They begin to speak of 3 Atlas, not as an intruder, but as a rare visitor following a path shaped by forces older and grander than our own existence. Whether natural or anomalous, the object becomes a teacher not of danger, but of perspective. Perspective that reminds us how small we are. Perspective that reminds us how connected we are. Perspective that reminds us that even improbable events belong to the universe as much as we do. Traveller, there is a quiet comfort in recognizing that probability does not diminish meaning. If something has a 1 in 20,000 chance, that does not make it suspicious. It makes it precious. If something is rare, it does not make it unnatural. It simply means the cosmos produced it with uncommon hands. And if something is strange, if its trajectory dances just outside our expectations, then perhaps that strangeness is part of the universe's calm instruction. A reminder that our understanding is still young, that our equations are still growing, that our sense of normal is shaped not by truth, but by the limits of our experience. Tonight, let the numbers soften around you. Let the percentages dissolve into starlight. Let the cosmos be large enough to hold every uncertainty gently. You're not lost in space, traveller. You are part of it. And here where probability becomes poetry, you are welcome to rest. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only observed. It's all right to not understand. Sleep now, observer. The cosmos will keep watch. Traveller, tonight we follow 3i Atlas as it drifts away from the sun, slipping quietly into the deepening light of interplanetary space. The moment of perihelion has passed. The blaze of its closest encounter is already behind it. Now begins the long outward journey, the slow return to darkness where warmth fades and silence grows thick as dust. This is not a departure filled with drama or grief. In the silent cosmos, even leaving is gentle. Imagine the object moving in a wide, soft arc, the same arc traced by every traveller who enters our solar system only to continue on. As it emerges from behind the sun and re-enters our telescope's view, it carries no proclamation, no visible transformation, no obvious scar from the light that touched it. Instead, what we see is something quieter, an object dimmer than before, but still present, still holding its place against the starfield. Astronomers patient and disciplined measure its position with exquisite care. They compare every updated coordinate to the predictions written months earlier, and with each night's data, their confidence grows. 3i Atlas, despite every anomaly that stirred our thoughts, follows a path shaped purely by gravity, no thrust, no deviation, no interruption in the elegant ballet of celestial motion. Yet this simplicity does not erase the past. The questions remain behind it like ripples. Nickel without iron, the backward glow, the strange polarization, the unhurried approach across 3 planetary neighbourhoods. These details do not vanish just because the trajectory obeys Newton. They simply settle into perspective the way memories soften into stories. Traveller, watch how the universe teaches us patience here, not through answers, but through continuity. The object moves outward with the same calm it had when moving inward. It is neither messenger nor threat. It is simply a traveller whose presence revealed the limits of our certainty. In the early December mornings, observatories captured its faint residue of light, and spectrographs traced how its chemistry had subtly shifted after the heat of perihelion. Carbon dioxide receded. Cyanide signatures strengthened. Nickel lines remained steady but weaker. These changes may be natural, the normal evolution of a comet's surface as layers are peeled away and fresh material meets the sun. Or they may point toward histories we have not yet imagined. But the cosmos does not hurry our conclusions. It lets the data breathe. Meanwhile, Mars turns beneath its pale sky, carrying the faint surface traces left after the flyby, those long, quiet lines, spreading through Noctis Labyrinthus. Observers note their extension, their darkening, their persistence, yet nothing about them screams for urgency. Mars is a world that changes slowly, revealing only hints at a time. Perhaps these lines are born of wind and dust. Perhaps something more complex is unfolding beneath the surface. But here too we're asked to sit with uncertainty rather than race toward meaning. 3i Atlas, for its part, does not look back. It continues outward, receding into the giant's domain where Jupiter's gravity hums like a distant drum. In March, the object will pass near the gas giant, still far but close enough that its path will bend ever so slightly under Jupiter's immense pull. The interaction will be quiet. A small adjustment. The kind of gentle nudge that has shaped billions of objects across billions of years. And then slowly the object will leave us. Not goodbye, but continuation. It will slip beyond Saturn's orbit in the late decade, drift toward Neptune's distant blue halo, and eventually cross the boundary of the sun's influence, the heliopause, that invisible frontier, where solar wind fades and interstellar breath begins again. Traveller, think of how long this journey has already been, how many stars it has passed, how many forces have shaped its path. 10 billion years perhaps, maybe less, maybe more. But the scale is still too vast for human clocks to contain. This is the timescale of the galaxy itself, a slow, ancient wandering through a universe that hardly notices our urgency. There is a kind of peace in recognizing that 3i Atlas does not exist for us. It is not here to confirm theories or fulfill fears. It is a reminder that we are part of a cosmos filled with travellers whose stories began long before ours and will continue long after. We observe it, yes. We measure it, yes. But we do not own its meaning. As the object dims, astronomers accept that the flood of data is giving way to a trickle. Their instruments will soon struggle. Observations will require larger telescopes, longer exposures, more patience. Eventually it will slip out of reach entirely. No drama, no disappearance, just quiet fading. And yet, fading is not forgetting. Fading is how the universe teaches us humility. It reminds us that not every question can be answered while the object still shines. Some insights come only after reflection, after years of re-examining data with new tools, new theories, new minds not yet born. When future civilizations look back at the records, we kept the spectra, the astrometric logs, the faint images they may understand. 3i Atlas, far better than we do now. They may classify it, or reclassify it, or realize it belonged to a type of interstellar object we did not even know to imagine. Or perhaps they will feel exactly what we feel, a sense of wonder that does not fade with distance. Traveller, there is solace in accepting that the cosmos does not owe us a resolution. 3i Atlas may leave behind more questions than answers, and that is all right. Mystery is not a flaw, it is a form of beauty. As you drift into rest tonight, imagine the object moving outward, slowly, steadily carried by the quiet pull of the sun behind it. No urgency, no fear, just motion, the kind the universe has practiced since its earliest days. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves, and it is enough to simply observe. Sleep gently now. The cosmos keeps its patient watch. Traveller, tonight we enter the quietest part of the journey, the part where facts grow thin and meaning becomes gentle. After the data has been collected, after the measurements have been refined, after the object has sailed past its closest distance to Earth, there remains a single question that no telescope can answer. It is not a question of technology, or chemistry, or mass. It is not a question of origin. It is the question that lingers between numbers in the soft space where science meets wonder. What does it mean to witness something we cannot fully explain? 3. Atlas has given us no revelations, no messages, no sudden breaks in the silence. The object has behaved in ways both ordinary and strange, natural and unusual, comforting and disquieting. It has been a contradiction wrapped in cold dust, and we have followed it with the devotion of those who recognize how rare it is for the universe to present a riddle in motion. Now, as it drifts away, we are left with a sense that the cosmos is inviting us not to solve, but to contemplate. We know so much, and yet not enough. Think of how the story began, a faint dot captured against the backdrop of distant stars, a blurry smudge on the raw feed from a rover's camera, a trajectory improbable but not impossible, a chemical fingerprint that hovered at the edge of our understanding. These details, like fragile threads of starlight, wove together to form a tapestry that was neither clear nor opaque. It simply was. A mystery not meant to alarm, but to remind us that the universe does not fit neatly inside our categories. When astronomers speak of anomalies, they do not mean the extraordinary. They mean the unclassified, the in-between. And 3i Atlas lived in that space from the moment we discovered it. Not alien, not mundane, just other. In the long nights after perihelion, when the object re-emerged from behind the sun and resumed its outward glide, something softer happened in the minds of those who studied it. The urgency dissolved, the speculation quieted, the sharp theories softened into questions. What do we do with a mystery that refuses to resolve itself? How do we hold uncertainty without fear? How do we honour wonder without distorting it? Traveller, this is the heart of the silent cosmos. not answers, not declarations, but the practice of holding open space for the unknown. 3i Atlas taught us that not every interstellar visitor will speak in clear signals. Not every anomaly will reveal its origin. Some objects move through our system like thoughts passing through a dream, recognizable only in fragments, meaningful only in reflection. The deeper mystery may not be the object itself, but our response to it. Consider how humanity has looked up at the sky for millennia, searching not just for knowledge but for reassurance. Are we alone? Are we seen? Are we part of something larger than ourselves? 3. I, Atlas. In its quiet passage offered no direct reply, and yet by studying it, we revealed something about our own longing, our desire to connect, our need to interpret the cosmos as a conversation, even when it whispers nothing but motion. Some wondered whether the object was artificial, others insisted it was natural. But perhaps the truest insight is that the universe does not divide itself according to our definitions. A comet can be ancient enough to seem improbable. An artifact could be subtle enough to appear natural. A wanderer could carry histories we can't decode. And somewhere within that uncertainty lies the question that remains: is it the universe that is mysterious, or is it our understanding that is small? As telescopes tracked the object across the December dawns, its faintness became a metaphor. At first, bright enough to ponder, later dim enough to chase with larger instruments, eventually destined to fade from our reach. This fading was not a loss, it was a lesson. Wonder does not need proximity. Mystery does not require visibility. Even as the light dims, the meaning lingers. Mars 2 carries its own unanswered question. Those quiet lines in Noctis Labyrinthus, were they dust, frost, subtle geology, a coincidence of timing, or something less familiar? The universe does not rush to clarify, and perhaps we are not meant to know yet. Perhaps the question is more valuable than its answer. Every major mystery in the history of astronomy began this way: a faint signal, a bright anomaly, a pattern that refused immediate explanation. Over time, some mysteries resolved themselves into elegant truths. Others dissolved, others deepened, but each one expanded the boundaries of what we considered possible. 3i Atlas now joins that lineage. Not as a revelation, but as a reminder that discovery is not a single moment. It is a long, slow unfolding. And so we arrive at the question that remains. It is not scientific, it is not technical, it is human. What do we do with the wonder that cannot be proven? How do we carry the unanswered into our lives without forcing it into certainty or dismissing it into irrelevance? Perhaps the answer is simple. We let it exist. Quietly, gently, respectfully. We allow the universe to be larger than our explanations. We learn to appreciate what we cannot categorize. We sit with the mystery the way we sit with the night, without expecting it to speak, but knowing that its silence has weight. Traveller, it is all right to not understand. It is all right to hold a question without an answer. It is all right to let 3i Atlas remain what it is: a visitor whose meaning is not yet ready to be named. Tonight, let the question rest beside you like a soft companion, not demanding, not unsettling, simply present. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only observed. Some questions aren't meant to close, only to open. Sleep now, observer. The cosmos keeps watch. Traveller, tonight we arrive at the far edge of this story, where the light grows thin and the universe speaks in the softest possible voice. Not through data, not through signals, not through the movement of a distant comet, but through the quiet that remains when observation falls away. This is the stillness between stars, the space where everything rests, including us. Imagine yourself drifting in a place without up or down. The sun is now a faint presence behind you, its warmth fading to a distant ember. 3. Atlas moves ahead, dimming slowly as it slips into the deep calm of interstellar night. There is no urgency in its departure, no drama, only a long unbroken exhale after months of attention. And in that exhale, something peaceful unfolds. The telescopes have done their work. The The calculations are complete. The debates soften. The tension dissolves. The object did not change course. It did not communicate. It did not reveal provenance or purpose. It simply passed through our system, carrying the ancient memory of its origin, and now it continues outward with the dignity of a traveller who asks for nothing. In the silent field of stars, this is enough. The universe does not explain itself all at once. It gives us fragments, a spectrum here, a faint glimmer there, a trajectory that dances slightly outside expectation, and then it steps back, inviting us to sit with what little we know and what much we do not. 3i Atlas was such a fragment, a piece of the galaxy drifting quietly through our lives for a brief moment before returning to the long migration it began billions of years ago. As it recedes, what remains is not an answer, but an invitation to wonder more gently, to question more humbly, to observe without assuming that every mystery is meant to be unravelled. Traveller, let yourself drift with that thought. The universe is not a puzzle, it is a presence. Consider the path ahead for this object. It will pass Jupiter in silence. It will cross Saturn's orbit with no witness but the giant itself. It will move through the outer solar system where sunlight fades into a pale whisper, where dust particles become as lonely as forgotten thoughts. Beyond that lies the heliopause, where solar wind gives way to the older, colder breath of interstellar space. Once it crosses that boundary, 3i Atlas will return to the medium it came from, a place of sparse hydrogen. Wandering photons and distances so vast that even imagination slows to a near stop. It will not hurry. Nothing in interstellar space hurries. Time has no sharp edges there. As it continues, we are left with the understanding that our part was small. But small does not mean insignificant. To observe is meaningful. To record is meaningful. To wonder is meaningful. These are the ways we participate in the cosmos. Not by controlling it, not by mastering it, but by meeting it with open eyes and open silence. And if we step back from the object itself, we begin to see the larger picture, the one that does not rely on anomalies or speculation. The galaxy is filled with travellers like this. Most we will never see, some we will detect briefly. Others will pass through unnoticed except by the gravitational fields that shape their paths. 3i Atlas is only the beginning. Atlas is only. Our instruments are growing stronger. Our sky surveys are becoming deeper and faster. The next interstellar object will be found sooner. The next after that sooner still. We stand at the dawn of an era where visitors from other star systems may become familiar presences in our data. And this realization carries a quiet comfort. We are not isolated. We are not alone in a silent void. We live inside a galaxy alive with motion-drifting histories and ancient fragments that migrate between stars. The stillness between stars is not emptiness. It is a cradle where stories move slowly. Traveller, let that soften you. Let the idea that the universe is alive with wandering objects ease the fear that mystery must be solved to be safe. Let the arrival and departure of 3i Atlas teach you that some encounters exist simply to remind us that we are part of something vast and ongoing, something too big for closure, too ancient for certainty. And in this stillness, something else becomes clear. The real transformation did not happen out there near Mars or perihelion or the cold edges of the solar system. It happened here within us. We learned new patience. We learned to sit with ambiguity. We learned to observe without demanding resolution. We learned that wonder does not need verification to be real. 3i Atlas is leaving us now, and in its gentle departure, it offers its final lesson: not everything meaningful stays. Some truths are transient. Some mysteries pass by quietly. Some beauty exists only when we stop insisting that it explain itself. As the object dims to a faint shimmer beyond the reach of all but our most powerful telescopes, the night grows quieter. The stars regain their usual positions, the observatories hum softly, and the universe resumes its calm, unhurried rhythm. Traveller, breathe with it. You are part of this stillness. You are part of this cosmic unfolding. You are part of the universe's patient memory. Tonight nothing demands understanding. Tonight nothing requires certainty. Tonight the stars simply hold their places while you rest. It's all right to drift. It's all right to not know. It's all right to let the mystery move on. Sleep now, traveller. The The stillness between stars will keep watch long after 3i Atlas fades from view. And the cosmos, vast and patient, will wait for your next question. Traveller, before this journey closes, before the last trace of 3i Atlas fades into the dark, stay here with me a little longer. Let the story settle. Let the silence widen. Every long voyage deserves a final moment of stillness, a breath where all observations dissolve into something softer than meaning and older than doubt. We have followed an object across half a year of sky. We have watched it brighten, faintly slip behind the sun, and reappear, changed in ways we only partly understand. We tracked it with telescopes, with calculations, with patient nights, and with a wonder that no instrument can measure. And now it moves away slowly, without ceremony, reminding us that the universe does not pause for our curiosity. It simply continues. And we small observers beneath a thin layer of atmosphere continue with it. There is a kind of quiet that arrives only after the data ends. A quiet that belongs not to the comet and not to the sky, but to us. It appears in the moment when questions stop forming and observation becomes gratitude. Gratitude for the chance to witness something ancient. Gratitude for the reminder that we exist inside a universe that does not hurry, does not argue, does not demand resolution. It simply unfolds. Perhaps that is the real gift of 3i Atlas, not answers, but proportion. A reminder that our worries, loud and crowded as they seem, exist inside a cosmos so vast that even a billion-year traveller is just a drifting grain of memory. A reminder that uncertainty is not a threat, but a companion. One that walks beside us every time we look up and dare to search. Tonight, if you think back to the anomalies, the nickel without iron, the backward glow, the improbable alignment, the silence from Mars, let them feel less like puzzles and more like stars in a constellation we cannot yet name. The meaning may come later, or it may never come. The universe is not obligated to complete its sentences, but it does offer beauty in the unfinished, and you traveller are allowed to rest inside that beauty. You do not need to solve it. You do not need to decide between natural and artificial coincidence and intention. You may simply observe the way the night observes you, not with judgment, but with patience. 3i Atlas will disappear soon, slipping past Jupiter into the thin light, where the sun becomes a memory rather than a presence. It will leave our instruments. It will leave our predictions. It will leave our debates behind, but it will not leave our quiet. The quiet remains like a tide that lingers after the wave retreats. And in that quiet, a simple truth settles: we are part of a universe that is still writing itself. We arrived here in this time, in this light, to witness one brief stroke of its pen. That is enough. That is beautiful. That is meaningful. So rest now, traveller. Let the cosmic dust drift. Let the final question soften into the night. Let the stars hold what we cannot. Let the universe continue its slow, patient unfolding. Tonight the silence is the answer. Tonight the cosmos keeps watch. Tonight you may close your eyes. Traveller, we've reached the end of this quiet passage. 3 Atlas drifts away now, slipping back into the dark between worlds, and we are left here, observers on a small blue shore holding only the echoes of what it showed us. A faint light, a missing image, a question that refused to settle, and maybe that's enough. Tonight reminds us that the universe is not a puzzle to finish, but a horizon to lean toward. Every anomaly is just another place where our understanding thins and wonder begins to breathe. What we saw around Mars, what we didn't see from NASA, what we can't yet explain, these are not failures of science. They are invitations. They tell us that the cosmos is still alive, still whispering through dust, and probability still unfolding in ways we cannot yet name. Thank you, observer, for drifting through this mystery with me, for listening closely, for sharing the quiet. In the end, 3i Atlas reminds us of something simple and profound. We are small, yes, but not insignificant. We watch, we measure, we wonder. And that too is part of the universe's story. If this journey found you tonight, know that you are welcome to return for the next. Until then, rest well, traveller. Stay curious. The universe will keep watch.